What the is leadership? Thought-provoking conversations with expert leadership scholars, exceptional leadership practitioners, and other extraordinary individuals. Good day. I'm Jonathan Kroll. I'm the executive director and a master trainer with Leadership Trainer, and I am so excited to be with Dar Mayweather, who is a lecturer in the Leadership Studies program at the University of North Carolina, Wilmington, and he's also the founder and CEO of Good Mayweather Consulting, where he is doing the good work. Doingthegoodwork.com. Dar focuses on engaging folks in developing their leadership capacity around diversity, equity, and inclusion. And he has been a tremendous friend to Leadership Trainer and to myself. He is going to be serving as a master trainer with our Black Men's Initiative for the Leadership Trainer Certification Program, which is a Leadership Trainer Certification Program designed for men who identify as Black. Dar, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate this opportunity. I'm looking forward to some authenticity, some candid conversation, and let's do it.
Let's do it. Dar, we start this conversation the same way every time. What the is leadership?
I swear, every time you say it, it's catching, even though I know it's coming, it still catches me off guard. So I appreciate that intro, and I think it's a hard thing to just define easily. I think we are in a place where we have practiced leadership in a lot of different ways. I think there is also differences in leadership studies versus the leadership industry versus leadership programming, which is what we see a lot in higher education. It's important for us to first, I think, recognize that there are some assumptions out there about leadership that I want to address first. And so I think some of the assumptions out there is that leadership can be learned quickly. Also, there's this thought out there that leadership can be learned without practice. All you got to do is go into the classroom. There's this idea that leadership is one size fits all. Like there's one style, one approach, one skill trait that you can use that all automatically makes your leadership great. I believe that people use leadership as a way to gain more authority than building relationships. And so I think that's another assumption out there. And then also I think there are assumptions that say that leadership equals good. That if you're practicing leadership, that means that you're a good person. That means that you're good in an organization. That means that you're good in the role that you're in. Mm-hmm. And I'm not necessarily subscribed to that either. And so I think some critiques that I have of leadership that I want to go over before I kind of say what I believe.
Yeah.
I believe that leadership is a process and not a position or a person, which is traditionally practiced as we see leadership as a CEO, somebody's making stupid amount of money, and it's actually a process that engages all people in equitable opportunities to achieve a common goal. Leadership has focused on the development of leaders, privileging leaders, and neglecting followers and context. And so what I mean is, when I say context, it's like the ever-changing environment around us. Mm-hmm. When we're practicing leadership, if we're not paying attention to the people that's following us, if we're not paying attention to the environment, I don't know if we're necessarily doing our justice of bringing all three facets together. Then lastly, I think it's important for us to recognize that leadership, how it's understood today, positions followers to be obedient, to be loyal, creating a hierarchical dynamic that involves power. Mm-hmm. And what I know, how I teach leadership is it's a equitable, moral, ethical process where a leader or a person influences a group of people to achieve a common goal. And so if you don't have a process in which that you engage people of all different identities, all different walks of life, then you're not necessarily practicing leadership.
Well, so I love that, especially as we think about these assumptions versus your critique. And so the question that I have is, These assumptions are so deeply ingrained in our collective leadership psyche from generations and generations. I mean, it's how we're indoctrinated. Like, all of the superhero movies, as an example, sort of emphasize these assumptions of leadership where the hero comes in to save the day and everybody else, forget about it. You are followers, and almost in like a derogatory sense, like a limiting sense. So, how do you, in two contexts, as an exceptional educator, we're in the classroom, but also as a trainer for people doing leadership work, how do we shift from these assumptions to what you're describing as your critique of leadership, this other way of thinking and doing and being in leadership?
Yeah. One, I think that oftentimes we get stuck in this mindset that you can just learn leadership by sitting down in a classroom, by sitting in front of a lecturer, by being in a training, by even being in a certification program. And that's a part of the problem is leadership is not done on the bench.
Mm-hmm.
Leadership is not done in a vacuum. You actually, leadership is not a spectator sport. You got to be out there trying to actually change the lives of people. And so what I'm saying really is keep it simple. Is You need some goals. Before you start a leadership trainer, before you start any kind of training, doesn't matter what the topic is, but if you especially want to be a better organizer, better decision maker, better person who can relate with people, you need to have those goals in the forefront so that you can say, okay, I'm taking this lens on how do I relate with people. Therefore, I need to think about how don't I relate with people, right? And then also, how can I take this information that I'm learning and infuse it into the process that I already have? And so I think that's important for you to have goals and then to go out there and try to achieve them, of course.
Yes, I love that. So something that we've discussed for a while now is how white and how male centric leadership is, whether it's been leadership in study, the scholarship, as well as what we understand as good leaders or good leadership. And so I wanted to ask you, how do we diversify the way to engage in or understand what good leadership is or best leadership practices might be that are inclusive of people who don't look like me?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to be honest and say that I'm blessed. I'm incredibly blessed to have been afforded the opportunity to be able to build relationships with people of different identities because I believe that creates a rich identity within myself. And I'll be honest in saying, like, I first started my inclusion journey as an RA, trying to include a student who couldn't eat pepperoni on his pizza, right? Like, I then also started my journey recognizing that as a man, there's not a lot of men that are in support of women's issues, right? Of the women's movement, of women's marches, of gender violence. And so I saw myself as a person who can fill the gap. Now, let's not take this easy, right? That was a role that was very bumpy. And I'm lucky to say that I was able to be in an experience like this, where I volunteered to teach students through a train-the-trainer experience about social justice, about multiculturalism, about inclusion. And so I was in a space where I learned from professionals, and then I took that same content and taught it to students. And that informed my transformation, but it also exponentially grew me fast, right? Because I'm not only learning, I'm teaching at the same time. And so that's the type of experience that people want to hear and see and feel when you are in front of a trainer and you are in front of a new faculty member. You want to be more inclusive. Let's talk about how you put yourself in the position to do the work. not just talk about it, not just being a meeting where you're comfortable discussing it with people you like.
Mm-hmm.
How did you engage people you didn't know? How did you talk with people that you may not have a relationship with? Those things matter as well.
Awesome, Dar. We like to give our guests the last word. And so the last word is yours as you think about and share your wisdom on what the leadership is.
Yeah, I think this is my message to anybody who works with Black men, want to see Black men be amazing, want to see Black men become faculty members. What we know is that there's not a lot of faculty members who are Black men. And then when you break it into leadership studies, it gets even slimmer. And so this is an opportunity for you to share an opportunity with a Black man who might have some interest in becoming a faculty member, or might have some interest in developing leadership programming and opportunities for people in your community. They need to be a part of a program like this, because one thing that I can say for sure is it's hard to get curriculum. That's what makes people certified. It's not the fact that you come in and have all this charisma, right, and all this amazing smile. It's actual transformative work that you can take with you to an organization
Mm-hmm.
that makes you certified. And that's hard to create yourself. And so come and join us, get this information, get this certification so that you can share this work within your community.
Dar, thank you so much. Thank you for plugging the Leadership Trainer Certification Program. I want to plug your work. And so all of our guests, you can see Dar's links in the screen. Info at Doing the Good Work for emailing Dar, doingthegoodwork.com for the website of all of his programming and opportunities. And of course, Instagram at Doing the Good Work. Dar, thank you so very much again.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. Can't wait to see it online. Keep doing the good work.
Thanks for joining this conversation on what the leadership is. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to this channel and don't forget to check out leadershiptrainer.org for all of your leadership training, programming, and resources.